There are some critical elements that Stuart covered in his theoretical presentation that need to be part of the birthing process, if you will. And the first is the school's got to be ready for it. I mean, if you have a school or an organization or a country or a family, if they're not ready for change, then you're going to get a hernia and nothing's going to happen. So I think the first thing is to assess whether you can get buy-in. We call it buy-in. And if you don't have the principal completely bought in, then you're going to get the teachers, you're not going to get the teachers to buy in, and if you don't get the teachers to buy in, you're not going to get the kids to buy in. If you don't get the parents to buy in, then you're not going to get the kind of effects that you want. You're not going to get the results that you want. And the thing about buy-in is that you can't order it. You can't say, okay, you got to buy in now. It doesn't happen that way. I think that you have to look at the other thing is that you have to recognize that this unconscious processes of the power dynamics have to be accounted for somehow. You don't have to tag every kid, this is a bully, this is a victim, this is a bystander. We're big into, you guys got famous with that YouTube video where the kid was, the large kid was, I didn't actually see that, we differ on this, I didn't see that as bullying. That little kid came up and opened with a right hook. I mean, that's assault, you know, and then at the end of that, you saw the bystanding audience. I mean, first of all, it was on YouTube. You told me, first of all, it was filmed. It was probably thought about. And then now you then say, well, okay, if we don't understand the power dynamics and the creation of humiliation, bullying is essentially creating humiliation. Now you add the digital devices, which are, now these kids are so much more sophisticated than us, at least me, with these devices. They become like ray guns. They become like ways to sort of compress and target humiliation. And what it's done is it's collapsed the boundaries between family, home, and school. It's an inescapable context. And when you have inescapability, that is one of the triggers for extreme action, such as a lethal outward or inward explosion of violence, whether it's school shootings or whether it's suicide. We've had a rash of suicides associated with disability, associated with gender, that really, you have to take the power dynamics into consideration. You have to see who's bullying whom, and Stuart talked about the fragmented sort of subcultures, you know, and that sort of intelligence that really needs to be assessed in developmentally appropriate ways. That bullying with little kids is about size, with girls it starts with more about inclusion, exclusion, and then it evolves as the kids get to middle school and puberty around these clique formations and inside-outside kind of behavior. That stuff has to be understood. It has to be understood by listening. You have to listen to the kids. You have to give them the power to tell you and to direct you in building a program. Basically, the concept we have is that bullies will only do what bystanders allow, period. If you don't have an audience, the show will not go on, period. So we've tried in a number of projects. We have a program in Jamaica which basically never mentioned the word bullying whatsoever. We used a simple craft approach, much like DAC Center uses a much more complicated one. We just had them making beads, but we insisted that in our program that the kids be, well, I'm going to steal Lumina Christie's word, upstanders. Rather than bystanders, upstanders. We're going to steal that one left and right. We love that. Upstanding. So they're upstanding to kids that are making other kids feel bad. That the bullying will pervade if it's allowed to occur, and if you take away the social capital of being a bully, it's not cool to be a bully. You know, it used to be, it's like smoking. You know, like smoking 30, 40 years ago, you look at an old film, everybody smoked, the doctor's smoking, everybody's smoking. Now, if you saw that, I mean, how did that happen? I mean, and it's sort of like smoking because then you have secondhand smoke. And bullying prevention in a lot of ways is similar to that. The other point here that I think is important is that high-achieving schools, and we call it the problem of excellence, that sometimes these are kids already. You want them to perform, but they have to feel like kids. I mean, they are kids, and you have to see them as human beings. And if we take our eye off that, then it's going to be difficult to. Targeting the bystanders, basically, we just spoke about that. The inclusion-exclusion rituals, I think, are I think the big challenge, if you are going to start a program, you are going to try to intervene in the schools, the bystanders are the place that we have found the easiest way to change a school is to change the audience. Feeling safe is a necessity. There has to be a feeling of, everybody has to have this sense of feeling safe. And the biggest sort of way to feel safe in a school is a relationship with a teacher. And when teachers and students are connected, and the community supports that connection, that the community really, the school really is a mirror of the community's values. And if the school is connected to the community, some of the most clever projects that we've seen have had community involvement. One was a bully poster competition, much like the old solar system. I don't know how many, as a parent of 4 kids, I know I've done more solar systems and with the aluminum foil and the Uranus jokes and all that. So the more connected the school is, the safer everybody feels. And I think that that's a critical element, that feeling safe has to be part of any program that you implement. The enhancing altruism and mentalization and natural leadership. The thing about natural leaders is that you do have to kind of find them. And nourish them. You can't make them. You can't train them. There's not a handbook about being a natural leader. It's a type of person. It's a type of person, and it's usually the person, when stuff goes down, that's where you go. It's sort of like, when things really break down, who do you go to? It might be the physical education teacher, it might be the lunch lady, it might be the nurse, it may, whoever it is, it may be certain kids, it may be certain kids that make trouble. So I think it's important to recognize that any program in a school should enhance altruism, thinking about self-reflection, which means basically an open, reflective process. So that when you begin to sort of sit down, and I think we talked about creating I had a conversation earlier with a teacher that was talking about the well-being teams or the wellness teams, because that's a really good way to put it, because it always changes. We were down to see John from Geelong down there. It's constantly changed. We came down and we presented to Geelong. We gave him a bunch of things. You immediately took it. You took more notes in our lectures than I've ever had anybody take. And you really constantly had to change it. So as soon as you do something, then the environment is going to twist and turn, and you're going to have to do something else. So that it's important to have this team, and I have this, America's fanatical about sports. Every high school, every school has 10 sports for boys and girls. They have a coach. It goes from year to year. There's a budget for it. And really, why is that not possible for wellness? I mean, why is that not possible to have a team that is given the time necessary to listen to what's going on in the school climate? And I think that that's really, if you talk about what is the program, this is the program. The program is the process of creating a wellness team that keeps their eyes on the critical issues of power dynamics, mentalizing. And the process about mentalizing is that when you are thinking and reflecting, you're not arguing, you're not fighting, you're not finger pointing, you're not blaming, you are trying to solve problems. You're trying to collect information, you're trying to listen, and you're trying to do simple steps. And I think that the problem is not simple, but some of these solutions are free, and they are basically simple actions that people take, but they're taken from a really complex understanding. the people inside the school are going to have that knowledge, not us experts that don't know you from any. So the other is, this is my favorite, discussing the elephant in the room, discussing the undiscussables. And the undiscussables that we tend to cover, teacher bullying is one of them. That is one. We have 2 papers. Anybody that's interested in these papers, we have a website, backoffbully.com. And they're available there. You can download them. And what we found is that it's quite rare, but one teacher who is bullying kids can affect everybody in the school. And there's really not much you can do about it, because it's really a teacher-on-teacher thing. Because once you get into a power dynamic and it's a principal and it's a job action, it becomes much more complicated. If somebody is really bullying children, an adult is really bullying children, kids are going to look, they're going to imitate you. They're going to see that you're doing it, and if you do it, they're going to do it. So I think it's really important that any team, wellness team, have the ability to discuss the undiscussables. That you've got to look at the elephants that are sitting in the room, and at least be able to have the freedom and the support from the leadership to discuss them openly and honestly. The other is, and I'll finish with this, the idea of evaluation. How do you know what you're doing is working? So if you have a wellness team and you say, well, okay, what we're going to do is, and I'll give you an example of one approach. We had a terrible suicide of an Irish immigrant called Phoebe Prince that made international news, and in this very sort of affluent community of South Hadley, Massachusetts. After that, about 6 months later, they started a project called Phoebe's Rangers, and they bought T-shirts. Somebody from the community bought T-shirts, and they basically go from school to school. And because it's such a famous case, these kids now talk about the opposite. How do we create the opposite of a bully? And the opposite of a bully is a friend. So I think that the evaluation of that project is like, is it working? Are the kids responding? So it needs to be a real-time feedback. You have to figure out, well, okay, is what we're doing sensible? Is it working? Is it achieving our goals? So in summary, which was 15 minutes, I think, in summary, that it's not a program. It always changes, that no matter what you do, it really is going to require, it's the process, not the content, that really gives you the project, the program that comes out of the people that are in the school every day is really a philosophy, and it's a process of open communication, of dialogue, and of involvement of children, parents, and all levels. Thank you very much.